One thing that I did today to really improve the outlook of my day was a very optimized and strategic workout routine. So I follow this workout regimen where I basically work out my entire body, all the way from my foot all the way to the top of my head. And the reason that I do that was actually because I started running a while ago. And, while I was running, I realized how much pain that I had, like in my shoulders, in my lower back, in my middle back, my upper back, my neck. My joints were starting to go out on me. And I'm like, dude, I'm only like 24, 25. I don't know how old I was when I started running. I'm a young man. Like, this shouldn't be happening to me. And my dream was to be able to run out in the country pain-free. Because I realized in that moment just like how locked up I was, how focused I was on this uncomfortability while everything around me, the world was just kind of passing by while I was kind of stuck in my mind. And I think that that's so analogous to what's happening in American culture today, is we're all so stuck in our minds that we can't see the beauty around us. We can't see the beauty around us because we're so stuck in our heads. And this is especially true for modern feminism because, and this is so embarrassing to me, it's so embarrassing to see feminists, particularly feminists who spit on men, who say, oh, we don't need men, I don't need a man. And it's absolutely ridiculous because here's why it's absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to give you a factual, logical reason as to why that's actually ridiculous. Because you'll see feminists who are sitting in a heat-regulated building, like I'm in right now, right? So they're just like me. They're sitting in a heat-regulated building. Maybe they're with their girlfriends eating dinner. Here they are, sitting at this table within this house, within this building that's heat-regulated. The toilet works, so the aqueducts work, the sewer system works. There's, beautiful windows, and they're just surrounded with beauty and these amazing systems that work to allow us to focus on higher levels of Maslow's hierarchy. Because if we didn't have these types of shelters, we would be focused on the fifth level of Maslow's hierarchy. We would be trying to figure out, how do we get these shelters? Okay? So the reason that we're able to have self-actualizing conversations and philosophical conversations in the first place is because we have the shelters and the means of survival basically met in order to be able to do that. So you'll see a feminist sitting in a regulated, a temperature-regulated room built by a man, saying, oh, men are the problem. We don't need men. Yet she's sitting in this room that the only reason she's able to have these deep philosophical conversations is because a man built that room for her and a man maintains that building for her. So while she has this amazing luxury, we have an amazing luxury in American culture to be able to have the living situations that we do. We have this amazing, amazing country that's so worth fighting for. But while a lot of feminists are sitting in luxury that was built by men and is maintained by men, they're spitting on men. It's so disgusting. That is so disgusting. Everyone's heard the saying, don't bite the hand that feeds you. You might be like, oh, but women can do that too. Women can build buildings. Women can install air conditioning and heat. Yes, they can. Yes, you're right. But what percentage of women are blue-collar workers? What percentage of women, compared to men, are in construction jobs? It's like 90% men. And you'll see this with all the dangerous jobs in the world, is that they're predominantly taken ownership of by men. And maybe that's for a reason. Maybe it's because God designed us that way. Maybe God designed man to protect woman. Maybe there is something to our biological nature as to why men are on average bigger than women, stronger than women. Maybe there's something to it. It's just something to consider. But yeah, so I find it pretty disgusting that women will just crap on men, and then they're wondering like, oh, why do no men want to date me? It's because you hate them. It's because your ideology and your philosophy of life and your worldview is oriented against them. You think they're stupid. You think that they're idiots. You have no respect for masculinity. And you'll sit there and be like, oh, I can't get a man, but if I do get a man, I want a man with 6 packs and 6 figures. It's like, are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? How are you going to get a man with a 6-pack and 6 figures who is disciplined? Ideally, you probably want someone who's family oriented, who's respectful, who's kind. How are you going to get that man if you're treating the avatar of him with complete and utter disrespect? Now, there's a complete place for women to criticize men. I completely am in alignment with that. Because when women criticize men, you want to know what happens? Men change. The problem with the feminist movement right now is that you're making the wrong criticisms. You're telling men, hey, don't be strong. Don't be the one thing that makes you biologically different from us. Hey, don't be strong. Hey, don't be chaste. Because you're sleeping around with a lot of men. And so you're basically saying, hey, I don't care about chastity. Don't be chaste. Don't be modest. I want you posting half-naked pictures of yourself online because that's what I'm doing. So here's the core fundamental principle, is that virtue is the same for men and for women. Respect is the same thing for men and for women. Modesty is the same thing for men and for women. So yeah, I'm sitting here talking about, women who post half-naked pictures online. And you might be like, oh, that's a double standard. Like, men walk around with their shirts off all the time. I don't. And I don't post half-naked pictures of myself. And so I completely agree with you that there is a double standard in culture today where men are like, oh, women are so sexual. Yet they're posting half-naked pictures of themselves in the gym, flexing their muscles. And so it's like, hey, men, if you want a woman who's not posting naked pictures online, maybe you should stop. Like, is that really that big of a deal that you can't go into the gym and take a picture with your shirt off and not post it online? Is that really that big of a deal? At the end of the day, I don't think it is. Virtue is the same for men and for women. Yes, we need to get to a point where there's no double standard, where everyone tries to live up to these virtues. I completely agree. Now, where are we headed as a culture right now? Because, we've had the industrial age, and now we're in the information age. But what are we learning as a result of the information age? Because, in the industrial age, we kind of learned like, okay, we started to learn how to become really efficient. We started to learn how to implement systems and processes in order to mass distribute things for the war because we had to. We had to win the war. And now in the information age, like, okay, what are we learning? And one of the big things in the information age right now is that we're consuming so much information. So much information. And, we'll see this in things like doom scrolling or brain rot, where it's like doom scrolling is just like mindlessly scrolling. And we're learning that too much information is bad. It's not good for us. Like our brains, I don't even think our brains are like equipped to handle that yet. They might actually adapt and evolve to a point where we can handle massive loads of information. And I think that they're starting to already. So I think that our brains are starting to adapt to the technologies that we're using. But, and there's a big but, because doom scrolling is leading to a lot of depression. It's leading to, it's an addiction essentially, because we're mindlessly scrolling. We're not really paying attention to our behavior. We're just doing it because that's what we do. So we got doom scrolling. We have brain rot. What's the problem with brain rot? Well, brain rot is essentially meaningless. That's the whole fundamental component of brain rot. 6, 7. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And there's all these words that these younger kids are coming up with that don't mean anything. Now, why is that a problem? Well, let's just take that logic to its full conclusion. That's something that you should definitely do with the ideas that you're playing around with. So let's say that everything was meaningless. Let's say that everything became brain rot. Well, if I'm living my life and it's completely meaningless, that sounds super depressing. That sounds so sad. And so that's what brain rot produces. Bad fruit. There's no good fruit in brain rot. Now there's a difference between just like having fun, doing the 6, 7 dance to stay hip, to have fun with your kids. There's nothing wrong with that. But when the whole core component of the culture that produced that thing is oriented towards meaninglessness, that's not good. That's not good at all. Okay, so we're in the information age and we're experiencing the results of consuming massive loads of information. But what are we learning? What is the good things that we're learning? So a good thing that a lot of us are learning, especially with AI right now, is we're learning that not all information is valuable. It's really important because we're being slapped in the face with information. There's like a fire hydrant just unloading on us with information. And, well, it's not just about the information. It's about how we're processing the information. Because information can be extremely valuable. It can be entertaining. It can be informative. Can give us insight into the world. But what we're learning is that we need to create a filter. We have to filter out poor information. It's like, okay, so for example, when you're determining, let's say you want to find a mentor, okay? Let's say you want to find a mentor because you want to build a business, right? So you're going out, you're looking for this mentor, and you have option A. Option A is someone who doesn't own a business. They work a 9-to-5 job, a regular job, nothing wrong with that. And so they don't own a business, they're working a job, maybe they have like a side hustle and they're trying to get their business off the ground, but it just still hasn't flourished yet. It still hasn't picked up. And, they're making money from their current job, but they're not really making any income from their side hustle. Okay, so that's option A for your mentor, picking a mentor, picking someone to learn from. And then there's option B. And option B is someone who built a business completely from scratch. They have 10 employees. They're making $6,000 a month in profit. So they're taking home $6,000 a month. And they've been in business for 5 to 8 years. And the one thing though is that, yeah, they're like really hard working and they've created this really good business, but they're not really good at teaching. They just weren't born to be a teacher. They were born to build businesses. Okay, so you got that for option B. Now you have option C. And option C is also a business owner, someone who's built a business from scratch, and they have 15 to 20 employees, and they're bringing in about the same amount of profit, like $6,000-7,000 in profit. The difference is this person's like very systems oriented and they love teaching. They're really talented teachers. And they've proven that because they've helped 52 other people build a business from scratch. Specifically, they helped them build that business to where they're making $5,000 or more in profit. Okay, so you got option A, someone who's never ran a business before, who's never created a successful business before. They're working a 9 to 5 and they're trying to get their business off the ground. And there's option B, someone who is running a successful business. They're making $6,000 a month. They have 8 to 10 employees, but they've never taught anyone else how to do it. And then there's option C, who on the same metrics, they got more employees. They got 15 to 20 employees. They're making $6,000 to $7,000 a month in profit. And they've taught 52 other people how to do the same thing. Okay, so this demonstration here, this line of thinking, these examples, they give you a filtering process for choosing someone to give information, to receive information from. Okay, so if I'm picking a mentor, I'm going with option C every single time. I'm actually making it a requirement that it's someone in option C to take advice from or mentorship or to, consume anything from them online about any type of thing that I want to, any type of skill that I want to gain, that I want to get better at. Now, why? Whoa! Where am I? Sorry, I just scared my dogs. I just woke up underneath my desk to tell you, hey, if you're enjoying this video and you want some more content just like it, I actually have a free Facebook group that you can go and join and engage with a bunch of people who are like you, who are interested in similar topics, and you can get more content from me if that's something you're interested in. So go down to the link in the description and you will find the Facebook group. Okay, well, option C has the result that I want. I want a successful, flourishing business. I want 15 to 20 employees. A team. I want, to be making that amount of money. Now, okay, it's like B and C, it's kind of a toss-up, right? Because when I'm looking at them, they're making about the same amount. They have about the same amount of employees about. What's the difference between B and C? Well, C has already proven, just like they've proven that they can build a business, they've proven that they can also teach other people how to do the same thing. So they have a track record of the result that I'm looking for. Because it's not enough to be like, okay, this person's making this amount of money. What an additional deepening filter is, have they produced the result that I need, that I want? And that's for me to build that business. And so have they taken a bunch of me's and done what I'm looking for them to do with me? Okay, so why does this even matter? It matters for so many reasons. For so many reasons. Because when we're consuming information online, we need to have a filtering process. We need to figure out, okay, who's worth listening to and who's not. Because it's like, okay, we're moving into the information age. We're already so deep into the information age. How should we position ourselves to get the most out of it? We know that we're going to be consuming a bunch of information. Now, how do we be responsible about that? And that's how you do it. You create a filtering process. You figure out, okay, what do I want out of life? What do I want? Let's say you want a happy, healthy family. Okay? And you're watching content on YouTube, or you're watching a television show. Well, if you want a happy, healthy family, do you think you should listen to someone who, they're just at this point in their life right now where they are going through a divorce? Their children are very unpleased. They're not developing very well. Because the parents are going through a divorce, so the leadership structure of the family is kind of breaking down. The kids can't lead because they're so small and powerless, and they need strong leadership, but they're just not getting it because, the parents are going through a divorce, they're really emotional, and, they're just not there for their kids. Okay, so if you are someone who wants to have a happy, healthy family, you're going to choose option A, who is that? Or are you going to look towards someone like option B, who, they've been married for 32 years. They have a little homestead that they live on. They got some chickens and horses and cows, and, they've acquired some wealth over the years just from being good stewards of their businesses and providing to the community. Not only do they have these physical things, but they have real intimacy with their family. And you can just see it, whenever you're around their family, or you see their family online, they're just like, oh, like, I want that. Because people can have all those physical things, but they could not have the intimacy. The intimacy is kind of the hard part. And on the opposing side, you can have the intimacy, and you don't really need the physical stuff. You could have the intimacy and be in a small apartment complex, and you have 3 generations of your family all living together, and you work together like a team. You treat each other with respect. You take accountability when you mess up, and you just try to do your best. And so you can have a strong family unit without really having a bunch of physical wealth, right? But who are you going to pick, right? If you want a happy, healthy family, are you going to pick the person to give you advice, who's going through a divorce, and they're just not really in the place to give you good advice? They're just not, and that's okay. They shouldn't be giving out advice, and that's just true. They should go out and they should seek good information themselves. If they want that, if they want a happy, healthy family, they should go look for someone who has a happy, healthy family, and maybe just go ask some questions and get curious, right? I'm like, I really don't like what we're going through right now. This divorce is messy. My kids aren't doing too good. Like, I need to get this figured out. That should kind of be the mentality. And so yeah, you're going to most likely pick the person who has demonstrated that they have a happy, healthy family, if you're given the criteria. But the problem is, when we're seeing people online, we aren't necessarily seeing what their real lives are like. They might be posting half-naked pictures online, but they're extremely depressed. They're extremely lonely. When they lay their head on their pillow at night, they're tossing and turning, and they're just thinking about, like, what am I doing? This content is crushing my soul. Like, I feel so ashamed and disgusted with myself. So while it looks good on the outside, they're smiling and they're excited and they're laughing and they're doing all this stuff online, but really in their core of themselves, like, they don't really like themselves. And that's really sad. And, I think that they've been misled, to basically believe the core beliefs that they have that essentially is making their behavior acceptable to them. So they've been misled. And so we need to create a filtering system, essentially, in order to process, to throw out bad information, to get rid of it, to say, hey, Facebook, I'm not interested in this crap. Stop showing it to me. And then on the opposing side, being like, oh, this is such wholesome, family-styled content. Like, I really like this. Facebook, show me more of this. I'm very interested in this. This is good for my heart. This is good for my soul. Show me more of this. This is a positive use that I can use Facebook for, or whatever social media platform you're on. And the thing is, the algorithm will adapt over time to the things that you actually like. The problem is with very, like, immodest content, or, very, like, exciting, extravagant, but provocative and vulgar content, those things can be like, oh, dude, I don't know what I'm watching, but I just want to watch it because I want to figure out what happens. And it's like, dude, you got to guard yourself against that. You have to guard yourself against that. You can't slip into that mentality, because when you do, it's like the algorithms just, boom. If you even watch like one little piece, it'll open a whole gateway of more content like that, that's even more vulgar, that's even more repulsive, that's even more immodest. And so in a lot of ways, these pieces of content are basically like a gateway drug, where it's like, you watch one video and then pretty soon Facebook is going to slam it in front of your face, and it'll be like you have no option but to be immersed into that world. So we got to guard ourselves from bad content. And so another thing that I was thinking about was in regards to fellowship. Fellowship. Fellowship is a very, like, old kind of traditional word, but I absolutely love it. Not just because of Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, although I love Lord of the Rings. I've learned over time that I create really good relationships with people through some sort of endeavor together. Even if it's just working on a project together or trying to grow together and, like, just kind of making that the center of our relationship, I've learned that those relationships are just so much better. And I can't even really do just like the regular friend thing of like, oh, we're just going to go hang out, we're going to go watch TV, and we're going to play video games. Like, video games might be fine, but because you're kind of doing something. But like just hanging out, just chilling, like, I've learned that I can't really do that. I don't feel comfortable with that. And that's just me. But I've learned that, I create really, and that this is probably why, is because I crave really deep, thought-provoking, and meaningful relationships. And that's kind of what I crave as a person. I'm looking to have hour-long, 2-hour-long conversations where we talk about everything that's on our mind. We talk about all the ideas we have and the things that we want to do in the world and our philosophies and our values. And our family and our relationships and what they mean to us. So that's my kind of a vibe. And so I've learned that because I have this whole value system, and I've refined this value system over the past 4 or 5 years. Because when you go and you first create your value system, you're kind of in the infantile stages of having a value system. You kind of know like where you want to go with it. And by the way, if you're not familiar with what a value system is, a value system is something like God, faith, and family. Right? Like I value God, faith, and family. But there's many other things that people value. Like beauty or spirituality. There's so many different things that people can value. Community, relationships, so on and so forth. And basically over time, I've developed out my value system. And for a while, it's really interesting how it impacts your behavior. It really does. It really, really does. When you create a value system, it gives you a decision-making framework and a decision-making map as to how to go about living your life. Because let's say you value God, family, and fitness. In that order, it's very important that you have a specific order to your values. Because one needs to be more important than the other, or less important than the other. And so, okay, you got God, faith, or God, family, and fitness. So that means that God is at the top. That's the most important thing in your life. That's what you need to center your life around. Because it's the most important. So that means that you should be, connecting with God. You should be reading the Word. You should be implementing the Word. You should be, going to church. You should be participating in the sacraments, right? Because that's the most important thing in your life. So if it's the most important thing in your life and you're not doing those things, guess what? You're going to feel like crap. You're going to feel like crap because you're not taking responsibility and action towards the most important thing in your life. Like just picture you have this amazing, you've been given this amazing gift, okay? And it was from someone who really means a lot to you, and they give you this amazing gift. And over time, like, okay, you're really excited right away when you get the gift. Let's say it's someone gives you a Lamborghini. Someone who means a lot gives you a Lamborghini. And you're just like, oh, this gift is so precious to me. Like, I'm going to take responsibility for it. I'm going to care for it. I'm going to make sure to keep it clean, keep the inside clean, the outside clean. I'm going to make sure to bring it into the shop every few months. And then over time, you start to dwindle away from those responsibilities. And you don't clean it on the outside for months, and you don't clean the inside for months. And then you go and you pick up your friend who gave you the Lamborghini, and they're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I bought you this Lamborghini. Why aren't you taking good care of it? And they get in the car and they're kind of disgusted. There's like McDonald's bags on the ground, and there's dirt and mud everywhere. And they're like, man, like I gave you this gift and you're completely neglecting it. You're not taking good care of it. Why did I even do this for you in the first place? And so you stop for taking responsibility for the precious gift that you received. And that's kind of like how it is with God. Because God became man and he lived a human life as a man. And he gave us this precious gift. He gave us many precious gifts, actually. Because when he became man, he showed us how to live a holy life. He demonstrated how to live a holy life. And you can get that and receive that by exploring his life and what we know about his life in the Bible. So that's one of the precious gifts. The other precious gift is he lived and he went to the cross, and he was crucified for our sin. He came to redeem us. He came to fulfill the scriptures. He came to show us how to live. And he came to claim our sins. And after that, after he was crucified, he resurrected 3 days later. And this was his purpose. This is what he came here to do. And another precious gift that he's given us is his helper spirit, the Holy Spirit. Because when he's gone, it's like, okay, well, God was here. Like, oh, I wish I would have been able to see him, but he's still here. You understand? The Holy Spirit is with us, and it's precious. It's this precious gift that God has given us. And so if faith is your number one, faith in God or your number one value, and you're treating it like that person who was treating that Lamborghini from their friend, like, how do you think you're going to feel? You're going to feel kind of ashamed. You're like, man, I know I should be doing better. And if you keep going on and on and on, it's like you can't really handle those thoughts anymore. It's just so negative. So you just start to numb yourself from it. You push God away because you have to. I mean, it's kind of a survival instinct at that point. But you know what you have to do. You know, you have to start putting your actions where your mouth is. You know, you're saying in your heart of hearts, like, I really want to value God. I really want to prioritize God. But then you don't do it. And so it creates this internal conflict where you're not doing what you say you want to do. And over time, that's going to rot your brain. It's going to rot you from the inside out. You know, you're going to look physically unhealthy because you're not aligning yourself with your spirit. You're not aligning yourself with your heart of hearts. So that's just an example of one value. So God, next is family. Okay, so God's the most important, but family comes after that. Now you have to lay out, like, why? Why would family come before fitness? Why is family more important than fitness? And it's like, okay, well, family is like a absolute fundamental piece of our world. By serving our families, we can actually serve God. So by being the best that we can be for our family, we can serve God and we can create really amazing outcomes as a result of that. And so for me, that's why family is so important, is because it's just such a fundamental piece of our world, just like God is. And then next would be fitness. Like, well, okay, why is fitness next? Well, I think that in order for us to go out and serve the community and the marketplace, we have to be fit to serve. So fitness not only applies to like your workout regimen, but it's also your diet. Not only just your food diet, also your mind diet. What are the things that you're filling yourself up with? Because that's going to impact the output. The inputs impact the output. Same with working out. Doing a bicep curl. That's the input. What's the output? A stronger bicep. So fitness then comes before my next value, which is fellowship. And this brings up a lot of controversy for me because I see a lot of people in today's world that are putting friendship before family. Like, it's become so regular and normalized in our world that our friends are starting to, like, it's starting to become super inverted where our friends become our family and we spend more time with our friends than we do with our families. And it's completely flipped on its head because one of the things with values, they're not just what you say they are. They are what they are. And what I mean by that is if you take out a chunk Okay, let's say, for example, you got God, family, and fitness. Okay, so and then throughout the week, or let's just take it day by day. So throughout the day, maybe you spend 2 hours, talking with God, and then you prioritize your whole day, focused on Him. Like, God, let my work be fruitful for you. Let the center of my work be you. Let my life be revolving around you. And that's kind of your prayer. That's your aim. That's your orientation. And then, you go and do your work. But before you do your work, you do your fitness. So you do your workout routine, you get your body right, you get your mind right. And so there you have fitness, right? And then fitness also applies to diet. So, throughout the day, you eat your lunch and your dinner, and, you eat a healthy lunch, a healthy dinner, and you're good to go on that part. You're showing, okay, I prioritize these things throughout my day. And then you got family. And it's like, okay, well, instead of just working all day and then just like vegging out, I'm going to play a game with my family. I'm going to spend meaningful time with my family. And there you're showing, okay, I'm prioritizing my family. So you create the value system, but that's not enough, because you actually have to demonstrate that these values mean what they say you mean, what they say they mean, what you say they mean to you. So if you have your value system and you're not living in accordance to it, there's going to be this internal conflict. And oftentimes that internal conflict is what is causing a lot of our negative emotion and bad fruit in our own lives, and unfulfillment with ourselves. So over time, I've basically developed out this value system, and I've also put together some systems and processes on how to develop it out. And I think it might be really helpful for people. Now, back to fellowship and how we got on this in the first place, because I kind of showed you through that process, like, here's the core fundamentals of values. And basically with fellowship, I'm learning, I think it's so important for other people to consider as well. Because I think a lot of us, we're spending time with people who we call our friends, but they're not really a friend. They're not really a friend. Now, we have to now define what is a friend. So, a friend is someone who supports you, someone who goes above and beyond for you, someone who tries to be a good influence on you, someone who's a positive influence in your life, someone who you go through life with. You go through challenges and problems and you work it out together. So you experience life together. And a friend is ultimately someone who is there to make your life better. You're there to support each other, to help each other grow. Okay, so if we take those aspects of a friendship and we look at some of the things that are going on largely in our world. Well, one of those things is gossip. People are constantly talking behind each other's backs. People are constantly spreading rumors. People are constantly saying things to other people that they wouldn't say to your face. Okay, so we have that. We have gossip. And that's happening on a large scale. Like, that's a very normal behavior in American culture. Hey, it's me again. I just wanted to tell you something very, very important. I have a coaching program that teaches you all about this stuff and how to become a better version of you. And so if that sounds like something that you're interested in, click the link down below. You can book a call with me. There's no sales gimmicks, anything like that. It's just a personal one-on-one call, and we'll figure out and see if the program's a good fit for you. If not, you might just get some free resources, free value, and a chance to come hang out with me. And yeah, so if that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure to click the link down below, book a call with me, and I will talk to you then. So the reason why I'm saying why some of our friends might not actually be our friends, that's one of the reasons why. Because someone who's your friend isn't going to go to your face and say, oh my gosh, like you're so amazing, you're such a good person. And then they go to another one of their friends and they go like, oh yeah, like she's so this and she's so that. Like, no, that's a bad friend. That's not your friend. That's your enemy. You want to know why they're your enemy? Because they're telling you one thing to your face and they're saying another thing behind your back. Behind your back. And that's kind of where the virtue of loyalty and trust and honesty come in. They're being dishonest, they're being disloyal, and they're not being truthful. So they're literally being unvirtuous through that behavior. Yeah, it's just so commonplace in our world for people to treat each other like that. And man, I'm telling you, those aren't your friends. They're not your friends. And I feel really sad for people who haven't experienced a true, genuine friendship where it fits that definition that I laid out before, and they're not talking behind your back. Now, how do you be like, okay, how do I know if someone's talking behind my back? It's actually really easy. Because people will show you who they are. They'll show you really quickly who they are. You know why? Because if you're talking to them and they're talking to you about someone else behind their back, guess what they're going to do? Guess what they're going to do? They're going to talk about you. Because they're so comfortable with talking about their other friend, who they say that they love and they appreciate, and they're their best friend, and then they go to you and they're like, oh, but they're this, this, and that. And I think part of it is too, like we haven't really learned what a model is like for friendship. We don't know what loyalty is. We don't know what building trust is. You know, we've gone so far astray from a lot of these virtues that they've become lost. And so a true friend is going to be honest with you. But they're also going to honor you. You know, if they think something like, oh, like they have this criticism of you, or they disagree with you on something, you know, they'll just tell you to your face. You know, they'll be direct with you, respectfully, and just tell you, hey man, like I disagree with what you're saying. Like I don't think that's true. And in part, you kind of have to do that because we're not going to agree with each other on everything. And then, but the loyalty aspect, like being loyal to your friend means treating them as if they're valuable. And so when you're engaging with your other friends, like how do you treat your other friend as if they're valuable while you don't talk about them behind their back? You know, you don't gossip about them. You don't create rumors about them. Why would you do that? You value this person. You think that they're a great person. And maybe they treat you really well and you have a really good relationship. So why would you go and tarnish that by being foolish with your other friends? And then there's the honoring aspect. So not only should we not be talking trash behind each other's backs, we should be talking our friends up. You know, like, oh, like, I really like this person. Like, you know, what I see out of them, you know, I think that they're so amazing for this reason and this reason. You know, they're such a good leader. You know, they're really positive. They try to really help people, and honoring them, showing them respect, showing them, oh, like you see me, like you see my heart. We're all going to make mistakes, obviously. We're all going to fall short of the glory of God. But that's not the point. You know, the point of a friend is to support the other person. And when you go out and you talk to other people behind their back, that's not supportive. If anything, that's like slander. You're going out and you're spreading information that that person maybe wanted to just share intimately with you. They wanted to experience that intimately with just you through your friendship. So a lot of your friends might not be your friends. And that's just the truth. So how do we do this? How do we go about this? Well, what are those people then? They're not your friends, so what are they? Oh, they're kind of like an acquaintance. There's someone that like, okay, I'll spend some time with them, but I don't spend too much time with them because I know that I can't trust them. Why would I spend a bunch of time with people that I don't trust when I could be allocating that time towards my family or going to church or working out and getting my fitness right? So those are really good questions to ask yourself. And the answer to that question is likely the right answer for you. Like, why would I spend all this time with people who treat me like trash instead of like working on something better, like working on your faith value, your family value? And so, yeah, I think that that's a really big thing in our world today that's really causing a lot of second order consequences. But really, like, where does that even stem from? I think that that stems from a disjointedness within the family unit. Now, why would I say that? Why would I say that the unvirtuous behavior in our society stems from a disjointed family unit? Well, okay, so, and what do I mean by disjointed family unit? Okay, so let's say you got one family and the dad and the mom are like completely different people. Like they believe completely different things and they're always disagreeing with each other. They always seem like they're kind of competing with each other, like they're keeping score. Like if someone does something, they'll hold that over their head and they'll keep score. They'll keep this tally, this list of things that the other person has done bad. And then when they do something bad themselves, they justify it. They justify their behavior because, oh, look at this. I got this list of things that you've done in the past. So why is my behavior not excused? So there's a lot of that. I mean, there's the physical abuse, there's the verbal abuse, there's the disrespect, there's the gossip, talking behind their partner's back. And essentially what you have there is a dysfunctional team. They are working together as a team. They're just not doing it very well. It's like when you watch a sports team play, and they're just not doing good. They're not communicating. They're not talking with each other. They're not like weaving together these amazing plays as a result of harmonious team efforts. And so teamwork is kind of the fundamental framework of a family, because you have multiple people coming together that are working towards something similar, a similar goal. So you got a mom and a dad, and you got that situation where they're kind of like, they're competing against each other, but they're on the same team. You see that in sports too, where ego gets involved, and it's like, oh man, like I care so much more about scoring 40 points than I do about winning this game and playing together as a team. And so I'm going to focus on my own performance, and I'm basically going to compete against my team so that I can get my result, so I can get what I want. So that's kind of the core fundamental of a team, or of a family. And a functional family will work together like a team, a very well orchestrated team. And so, okay, so you got these two parents that are pitted against each other. Now, how does that impact the kid? It impacts a kid in several ways. Several ways. Because he's getting one message from mom and another message from dad. So what do you think that's going to do to the kid's identity? Well, his identity is not going to, there's not going to be one core identity. There's going to be split identities. You got mom over here and dad over here. Mom says this and dad says this. Now, instead of just believing one thing, where, mom and dad are on the same page and they believe that same thing, now it's completely split on many different levels. So, mom and dad's version of faith is different. Of family is different. Of fitness is different. Of community is different. So their whole worldview is completely different. Now, you got the kid in the middle who's basically trying to figure out what the heck is going on. What should I actually believe about life? They're getting all this different information and different worldviews from their parents, and it creates this split, okay? And what are they learning through that process? They're learning that my identity is based upon what another person thinks. It's not a central part of me. It's actually a fragmented part of me. And that, okay, it's okay to believe what mom thinks, and then it's okay also to believe what dad thinks. And now they take that out to the community level. So now when they're interacting with their friends, they're like, okay, it's okay to believe what they think, and it's okay to believe what this other person thinks, and it's okay to believe what this other person thinks. And so what does that do? It creates this environment-based identity. So, and we all know this because of the example of like acting one way around one group of friends, and then maybe you act a different way with another group of friends, and then you act another way with your family. It's like you're a completely different person, and your personality, your characteristics that you demonstrate are based upon who you're with and where you are. So it creates this split in the child, and it creates a lot of instability, and that often leads to kids not really wanting to be a part of their family because they don't really know what's going on. They don't really know that their identity is based upon who they're around, and they don't have a central identity. They haven't experienced what that's like. And so they often go and try to find their own way and remove themselves from the family, but they just kind of use the same modalities that they used when they were split between mom and dad. And it's not good. The reason that's not good is because imagine you have 20 different people that live in your brain. 20 different people that live in your brain. And this is very real. This is very real because your identity is based on your environment. Now, it's really interesting because once you enter that environment, it's like the substructures and identity structures that are accustomed to that group of friends, it just flares up. It's just automatic. Like you just become that person. And then you go into work and you're a completely different person. And it just flares up. You just automatically do those things. And you keep doing that over and over again with different scenarios and different groups of people. Well, eventually you're going to have multiple people in your head. Okay, so now imagine trying to orchestrate all those people towards a goal. They're going to be competing with one another, just like mom and dad were competing with each other. And they're going to be asserting themselves over each other. They're going to have mixed motivations, mixed desires. So you got 20 people, okay? 20 people. Say each of them has 3 core desires. That's 60 desires. 60 things that you want. Now, how the heck are you going to make all 20 of those people in your head happy? You're not. You're not. And so the reason that a lot of this disjointedness comes from a disjointed family is that's partly why. We have split identities. We have environment-based identities. Now, okay, what's the opposing side of that? Well, the opposing side is something like mom and dad are on the same page. They work together like a team. They share the same core fundamental beliefs. They instill those beliefs into you. Now you have one central identity. Now you are who you are. You're not who everyone else is. You are who you are because mom and dad instilled these beliefs down to you. Because they shared the same beliefs and they demonstrated the same beliefs. And you might be like, oh, that's impossible. That's not possible. And it's like, yeah, it is. It is. So, for example, I'm a Catholic. Let's say you have two Catholics who come together and they share the same fundamental beliefs. They believe in God. They believe that God became man. That he lived a human life, that he died on the cross, and that he resurrected. Okay, that's their core 5 fundamental beliefs about Catholicism. And then to layer on more, they both believe that the Catholic Church is the one apostolic church, one holy apostolic church, and they just love the Catholic Church. They love the doctrines, they love the history, they love everything about it. And so what's going to happen as a result of that is that they're going to ascribe to the same beliefs. Now, that doesn't mean that every single thing that happens that they're going to agree on. But if the core framework is there, that we're going to work together like a team to sort this out, well, that's going to be a lot better than competing with one another to try to sort it out. Because what are you doing if you're competing with one another? What are you trying to make this person lose? You want to be with a loser? No, you don't want to be with a loser. You don't want to be with someone who feels like they're losing all the time. Because that's essentially what partners are doing when they're competing with one another, is they want to win the argument. They want to win the other person over to their worldview. And well, what happens if you win? Obviously, the other person loses. So, you want to be with a loser? Personally, I would rather be with someone who wants to work together like a team. We want to identify, what am I strong at? What am I weak at? So like, what are my strengths, my weaknesses? What's my personality like? What's my life story like? Where are some places that I fall a lot, that I'm vulnerable to? What are some threats, perceived threats, based upon my own unique characteristics? And then the same thing with the other person. Now what happens when you map out both people, you can kind of start to see like, okay, you're stronger at this than I am, and you have this thing that kind of counteracts one of the threats for me, so we should probably look towards you to be the main authority on that piece. And so you're like working together like a team, and just through the process of working together like a team, you can separate out the challenges and problems that you face in the world. And so now, instead of competing on like, what are we going to do? Well, no, instead of competing on this person being right and this person being wrong, we're now trying to figure out, what are we going to do? What's the most logical thing to do? And working that out together versus being like, oh, we need to do this or we need to do that. And that's just a product of the completely different worldviews. So in conclusion, family disjointedness leads to split identity within children And that split identity within children leads to more and more splitting. You want to know why? Because that person has 20 different people that live in their head, and they're going to go out and find someone else that has 20 different people that live in their head. And so if we don't have a core identity, we don't have the core, this is who I am, this is who I want to be, this is my value system, these are the virtues that I want to strive towards, this is what I fundamentally believe about the world. If you don't have that neatly organized, and if you don't really take the time to philosophize that out with a hammer to figure out who you truly want to be, likely you're going to end up being multiple different people and not knowing who you really want to be. So that is that's a big problem. And I think that we need to figure out how we can change the culture to move in the direction of core identities. And that really comes from how we treat our relationships, how we approach our relationships, and how we approach who we get with, who we marry, and why. And so when we marry someone who shares the same core fundamental beliefs, that sets us up to be able to work together like a team because we believe the same things about the world. So we're not going to be constantly pitted against each other. So that's a plus. And then the kids are going to have like a core identity, a core set of beliefs that they're going to believe because they're going to mirror us and our behavior, because that's what kids do. They mirror your behavior. They mirror what you say. They mirror how you move. They mirror what you do. Like if you're working out, they will mirror you. That's what kids do. That's how they learn to survive, is they watch you, and then they do what you do to the best of their ability. So like if they're like a really small infant, they're going to be watching you, like trying to figure out, like, okay, he's moving his right arm, I can move my right arm. And they're not obviously that capable yet. But once they get to like 4 years old and they can start talking, and then they start saying the same things that you're saying, and you're like, whoa, like when did you become me? They've been watching you basically their whole life. And so they're naturally oriented to become you, like you. And then the reason that they become really different is because we put them into like a public school, we put them into a community, daycare, and now they're looking and they're mirroring other people. And so now when they come home from school and we're like, who are you? Like you were once like mirroring just me, and you were a lot like me, and now you're becoming like someone else. Like, who is this person? Who are you? And that's what kids do. That's how they learn their behaviors. So, yeah. And that creates a lot more order. And it leads to less of this splitting that's going on.